Welcome to the MACE HAMMERTIME MMA Power Hour show. I am your host, MACE HAMMERTIME. I'm the deadliest man in the known universe. I'm 500-0, never been touched, and I'm here to lend my expert opinions on things that are happening in the MMA world and other various aspects of reality and life. So you may be wondering, folks, where have I been? Where has MACE been? I can only tell you partially about where I've been. But I was doing some deep cover work. Can't really get too much into the details of it, but I may or may not have been in a place that rhymes with ran and may start with an I. Can't get too far into it because it's some high level stuff. But so I've been out doing, saving the world, helping children, and also perfecting more of my martial arts skills. Now, you might be wondering, where's Ronnie J? Well, Ronnie J decided that he was going to go ahead and make another human being, so he did that. He'll be back in action, hopefully in the fold here in the near future. You may be wondering, where's Deuce Almighty, the all-knowing? Well, he's also pursuing his dreams of becoming a professional fighter. I'm here with Sammy the Sledgehammer today. He's Pittsburgh's most dangerous street fighter. The thing about Sammy, go ahead, Sammy is... never watched an MMA fight in his life because, well, he does the real deal, kind of like me, out in the streets. And so we're going to educate Sammy here on some of the finer nuances of mixed martial arts and the UFC. We've had a few events over the past few months that have been great. Now, I was going to start the show back up after UFC 250, the White House card. But I was far too busy. See, the reason why I'm so in on MMA knowledge, and I'm the insider's insider, so I give information to all the people that say they're the insiders. The reason why is I work deep security for the UFC. Now, I've been at every single UFC event ever. You wouldn't notice me there, though, because I have a very distinct look, but when I'm doing UFC security and working at those things, I'm in deep cover, so you'll never see me in the crowds. That being said, I just went to the fights last night in Oklahoma City, but let's go ahead and back it up to UFC 250 at the White House, which was an incredible event. Sammy, did not see that, did you?
I didn't see it, but I saw it on the news, and I was intrigued with some things there that I don't understand. How did they come up with an octagon as the ring or where the fight is happening? Like, who determined it would be an octagon, and who determined the size?
Well, little history about that, from my knowledge, is initially they had a bunch of different designs. They were contemplating an alligator pit around the octagon. So John Milius, a good friend of mine, actually, I should have known this. He's the one who came up with the design for the octagon. And if you're not familiar with John Milius, he's a great Hollywood director. Came up with some of the greatest movies that have ever been made. Conan the Barbarian, Red Dawn, Apocalypse Now. He's involved in all of those films. So he was involved in the early days of the UFC, and apparently he came up with the design for the octagon. I don't know the exact reason why they chose 8 sides, but I guess 8's better than 6.
What's the dimensions of that?
I think they're like 30 feet across, 25 feet across, something like that. They have 2 different sizes, though. But my good friend Joe Rogan, he says they should just fight in an open field with no walls.
That's what, from a guy who don't necessarily watch this, that's what I think. Hey, just have at it. Why be enclosed with that? So do these fighters, do they train in an octagon or do they train in a ring? And that kind of is like, I don't understand that. If you're going to train in a ring than go to the octagon.
Well, I think most of them probably have their own octagon set up in their.
Oh, they do?
In their gyms, yeah.
So they are training in an octagon.
Yeah, but like, you know, you and me, we're a different breed. We don't really, you know, train the same way other people do. I'm more of like, you know, in the streets, obviously, or in any scenario possible. But when we're talking about sport fighting, which the UFC is all about, they got them in the octagon. I think it's a good setup, though. They could do the walls like they do in the Karate Combat. That's pretty cool too. So they, instead of having the octagon, they have a flat, and they have they have walls around it that are slanted on the side, which I think is a great arena for fighting. But I think the idea of having them fight in a giant open space is absurd, just for the simple fact that it's a lot of space for two dudes or two women to be running around fighting on. So yeah, they did the UFC at 250 at the White House. They set up that big claw, very impressive. But the fights were outstanding. I will say that it was every fight, I believe, ended in a finish. And then there was I want to go over the couple main events they had that night. There was Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje in the main event. And by all accounts, Justin Gaethje was supposed to lose that fight. He was supposed to get beat up pretty badly. But if you bet money on Justin Gaethje, you probably did pretty well for yourself. He ended up making Ilia Topuria quit on his stool. He beat him up so bad that after the fourth round, he couldn't get off his stool and come back and fight. So he won that one, and then, which was a huge upset. And I don't know where that guy, who he fights next, because he's a 38-year-old lightweight fighter in the UFC. There's some intriguing matchups for him, but I don't think, I don't know where he goes next. And then in the co-main event, it was for the heavyweight championship of the world.
Do you think the weather played a part in these fighters' performance at this White House event?
It's funny you bring that up.
I mean, it was hotter than a fox in a forest fire there.
Well, they were. What was really interesting is I'd never seen this done before, but a giant thunderstorm was heading right for the event. Giant thunderstorm, and then what happened is they put their weather control machine on. And then as it came towards the thing, it split open like Moses parting the Red Sea and went right around the event. So when it comes down to great government spending, I think that the weather manipulator was money well spent. Just for the simple fact it allowed the UFC event to go on. I mean, nothing celebrates America like people fighting on the lawn of the White House. So surprisingly, I think the event turned out better than people expected. I was there, of course, but I was working security, so I didn't really get to enjoy it as much as most people do. And, you know, I don't think they'll ever do another sporting event on the White House lawn again.
I think that's a good thing.
Well, what's next? Tennis? Racquetball? Badminton? I bet they have a basketball game on the court at some point. Basketball, maybe a hockey game.
Where do you think the best location for an MMA fight would be? Outdoors.
Well,
is that their first outdoor event?
No, they've done outdoor events before. Maybe probably at my beach villa would be a great spot to do it. Perfect weather there all the time. And then, I don't know, I don't think outdoor events lend itself well for sport jiu-jitsu like that. Now, if we're talking brawling, I would prefer to be outside in a brawl.
Did they take this international?
Oh yeah, it's all over the world.
Well, I like to make a proposal.
Sure.
They do an MMA fight at the Coliseum, at the Ruins Coliseum in Rome, and go old school.
So it's funny you bring that up, but I think that all comes down to finances, and they said in order to rent that space out would be astronomically insane. So Dana White reached out to me and asked me if he could borrow some money to do that. I told him, let's pump the brakes on that. Let's just let this White House thing kind of enjoy the success of the White House thing. And we'll talk about the Coliseum next. After that, possibilities of a moon fight. We'll see. Yeah, the lunar event would probably be 2030, 2031 tops, but we got to figure out a way to get people up there. So yeah, they did UFC 250 at the White House. That was a very, 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 very good event considering I thought it was going to be. I didn't think it was going to go off well.
Do you think the next step in MMA is to make an Olympic competition, Olympic sport?
Well, that's definitely been brought up. The problem with MMA though is it's hard to do. It's hard to compete more than once in the same day. Now I can do that because I basically I'm just different. I'm like there's a levels to the game and I'm on my own level. So I could fight 10, 15 times a night, no problem. But the average fighter, they take some wear and tear, they get a little damage. It's difficult to recover, then come back and fight. So in the old days of the UFC, they used to do the one-night tournaments where they'd have guys fight. But a lot of the times when guys fight, after they're fighting, they can't fight for 6 months after because they're suspended. So the idea of having people fight multiple fights in a night is very challenging. And so in the Olympics, that would have to happen. So you'd have a.
I've been in 3-4 fights a night myself.
That's what I'm saying. But these are sport fighters, Sam. They're sport fighters. They're not in the same category as myself. So everybody's always asking, why aren't you the champion of the world, Mace? Why aren't you the champion of the world? Dana's asked me. I told him, Dana, I don't want to be responsible for the first death in a ring. I don't want to do that to the UFC. He understands that. He knows I'd be good for business. But if I was to use some of my techniques, which are illegal in most states, it would probably, first off, it'd be boring for everybody because I'm too good. I've never even been hit. So people are like, who is the hardest, Mace? Don't know. People can't even touch me. So, and also the thing about me is I'm 500-0, at least 500-0. If somebody's going to challenge me, they can't have a loss on the record. And in fact, I've never lost to anything in my life. Checkers, chess, you name it. I've never lost a video game, so I'm pretty much undefeated at everything. So if I'm going to fight somebody, they also have to be undefeated. The only person I'm really willing to fight right now is Khabib if he came out of retirement. He's also undefeated and he's never lost a round, so he'd be somebody I might be willing to give up my O for. But even him, I'd hate to take away his because I think he retired basically because he was about to be offered a fight with me. Whether I took it or not, hard to say. Fighting in the Olympics would be great. I think they'd have to alter the rule set a little bit in order to get people to be able to last. Because I think jiu-jitsu is possibly going to be an Olympic event. Is that right, Guillermo? Do you heard anything about that?
I think it was on the table, but they're now changing their minds.
They're changing their minds.
They said it's too gay.
Too gay. I can see how people would think that. But they allow wrestling, which is probably the gayest of the gay.
True.
Yeah.
Speaking of wrestling, did you see that Armand lost to Colby?
Good. Yes, I did see that last night. So RAF, which is, I think, a tremendously amazing organization. If anybody knows anything about wrestling, frankly, to the average person, pretty boring. And so RAF has done a great job of getting casual people to actually watch wrestling matches, because what they're doing is they're getting a lot of odd matchups, a lot of MMA guys, and a lot of guys who aren't actually superior wrestlers and letting them wrestle, which creates exciting matches. So the match, Arman hasn't lost a fight in 3 years of any kind. And the last fight he lost to was, I think, to Islam Makhachev. So
I heard that dude's pretty tough.
He's really tough.
They said he. I heard. That's what I heard. He wipes his ass with sandpaper.
Only 200 grit. That being said, he likes it really coarse. Any of those guys. So I think it's kind of wearing off. But I've done a lot of training over there personally. Anybody that comes from a stand country, Dagestan, Kazakhstan, any kind of stand country, if you're betting money, probably bet on the stand person. I will say though, I think that their reputation for being badasses has kind of gone off a little bit because we base everything on the top fighters that have come from there, whether it's Khabib, Islam, or any of their cousins. But now it seems like anytime there's a guy from the stand, we assume that they're going to be an exceptional fighter. They've got their Abraham Lincoln going on, and they're ready to fucking fight. But I think we've seen their best fighters, and I'm not sure if they're going to be able to maintain the high level. Kind of like Brazil. Brazil's kind of fallen off with their skill level as far as fighters go. It used to be, same with their soccer team, but much like their soccer team now, I think people aren't afraid of fighting Brazilian fighters like they once used to be. Brazil and the United States used to have probably the two countries that are putting out the best fighters, and I'd say both of them are still up there, but Brazil I think has fallen off the most as far as their invincible aura of fighting. So so UFC 250 went off pretty well. There's a lot of matchups that are coming back, in the future off that. The guy Josh Hokett is a great fighter, terrible on the mic, but he is going to be a problem for heavyweights moving forward. After that, we saw 3 weeks later, we saw the return of Conor McDougal. That's his name, right? The biggest superstar in fighting is Conor what's his last name? McDougal?
Conor
Something?
Conor O'Brien?
Conor O'Brien. So anyway, so Conor O'Brien was back in the UFC for the first time in, 5 years it was? He hasn't fought in 5 years? Something like that.
He hasn't won in that long.
So yeah, back to my original point. This Conor McDougal's been stealing all my thunder for years. And I don't understand where his popularity stems from now. On his come up as a fighter, he was one of the most entertaining fighters that has ever lived. But then what happened is people get money.
Yeah.
Now, I personally have tons of money, and I act the same as I've always have. Now, Conor McDougal, he is the kind of person who basically got lottery rich and then completely lost the plot. Point being, the guy is probably the most popular MMA fighter of all time. But in the past 10 years, he's won exactly one MMA fight since 2016. And that was against a guy named Cowboy Cerrone, who was pretty washed up at that point. And I'm not going to lie. I think that that fight was fixed. Yeah, you heard it here first. Maybe second, maybe third. But I think that fight was fixed because Cowboy Cerrone, he got beat by shoulder strikes to the nose. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but he shoulder struck him and then he fell down, and I think he got kicked in the head too. But so he beat Donald Cowboy Cerrone in 2020, I think was the last time he fought. Since then, he's lost to Dustin Poirier. In that time frame, he's lost to Khabib, Dustin Poirier twice. Then he came back, and the hype was real. So Conor McGregor was headlining UFC 329. That's what 329 it was? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. It was a great card, honestly. The fights were really exciting. Paddy Pimblett, my buddy Paddy, we're close. He invites me over to come on train in Liverpool all the time, but I'm so busy we haven't really got a chance to get after it. But he fought Benoit Saint-Denis, a Frenchman. Everybody knows the French aren't known for their courage. But Benoit Saint-Denis is a decent fighter, and which boggles my mind is his decision-making in that fight. He got into it with Paddy Pimblett, and I will say this about Paddy Pimblett. Paddy the Batty, they call him. He's got a Beatles haircut from Liverpool.
Sounds like he can take a real ass kicker.
Well, he sure can, because he had lost to Justin Gaethje, the guy that won at the White House previously in a real battle. It was a title eliminator fight. Now the UFC really wanted Paddy to win, in my opinion, because he's an upcoming star. So they kind of set him up, Gaethje to lose, but Gaethje keeps on pooping everybody's Cheerios and winning. But anyway, so Paddy had to go back and fight against Benoit Saint-Denis. Now apparently Benoit Saint-Denis is a national champion wrestler in France. And judging by his wrestling skills, I'd say being a national champion wrestler in France takes very little skill. He dove in with his neck out like an ostrich, and Paddy Pimblett decided he was going to create I think Paddy missed a huge opportunity to patent a new jiu-jitsu move with his name on it. But they're calling it a Peruvian, what was it, a Peruvian Darce?
Yeah.
Is that what they were calling it?
They call it the padlock.
Have you seen that particular move before?
No.
I'd never seen anybody do that quite like that, except for myself. I did it before, just so everybody knows. I just never showed it in public before. Anyway, so he locked him up with that Darce right there. And you know, once you get somebody in that Darce like that, you got him in a great control point. But the mistake a lot of people make when they do that Darce, they'll get to their side and they'll try to finish it on their side. Well, Paddy, he set up, and do you see how he got his chest over his head like that? And that's where that pressure started to push down on his neck. And I knew the Frenchman was in trouble when he started to roll. He rolled the one time, but then Paddy had his foot over his shoulder like that. And then once he had him flattened out, there was no chance he was getting out of there. And if that was that looked like something that would kill somebody, that move, because he was kind of like you know, he was like pinned against the fence there, and if there's no referee there, Benoit Saint-Denis in big trouble. But he stopped him there in about 50 seconds. It was a good fight. So, and I got to be honest with you, I was at the event. The walkout for Paddy was like felt like I was at a rave. Place is going crazy. But the thing about him, which is cool, is he went from rave party to killer once that music stopped. And one thing I could say about Paddy Pimblett, he's a true fighter. He's not really great in any one particular place, but he's a fighter. And that's what I like about Paddy Pimblett. A lot of these guys are prima donnas. They just want to be in fighting because they maybe want chicks or a sports car. But some guys are just pure fighters, and that's Paddy Pimblett. And then we move. So the card on all the other fights that night were really good. Honestly,
he has a snare that'll kill you, huh?
Right through there, right through your soul. So after the Paddy fight, everybody was pumped because we're about to see Colin McGregor was going to fight for the first time in years. Now, to the casual person on the street, everybody in the world knows Colin McGregor, and so I think they had like 20-30 million people watching the fight. Well, I'm gonna break it to you. It's very disappointing. Conor McGregor, he jumped, and then he blew out his knee. The first action of the fight, and it couldn't have happened to a better guy. Conor McGregor, the future president of Ireland, should probably retire from MMA fighting, but I think he's going to come back and do another fight because he got paid $30 million to break his knee. Not bad. And then his opponent, Max Holloway, wants to do the fight again, and I would too, because that guy, I think he got paid $3 to $4 million, and he didn't have to fight at all. So
McGregor, he got high tolerance for pain, right?
Apparently not. I've never had an injury before, but I would say that if I blew out my ACL, I would just probably cut my leg off and keep fighting. That's the kind of guy I am. Clearly, he doesn't have that kind of intestinal fortitude inside of him that would allow him to do such a thing. That's why he's not a real fighter. And Paddy Pimblett is a real fighter. McDougal's not a real fighter. He did it for the glory and the money. And when you fight for money, there's only so far you're going to go. Unless you're me, I fight for money all the time, and I always win. So 329, UFC 329 was a great event. And like I said, I was really happy with the outcome of the final. I was there. You would never have felt the crowd more deflated in your life after he blew out a knee like that. And then he took off and didn't even put his clothes on. He actually ran out of the arena in his spandex, got in his car and went home and cried. So will we see Conor McGregor again in the UFC? My guess is yes. Who's he going to fight next? What do you think, Guillermo? You think he goes against Max Holloway again?
Yeah, I think he even tweeted that it has to be Max, is what he said himself.
You know, Max is like, okay.
Yeah.
Because Max said, yeah, he's just going to wait till next year for another paycheck.
Yeah.
Like, Max Holloway is really getting done right by the UFC with his retirement pension plan.
Yeah.
Thanks, Conor McGregor.
But Max also has a shot to flatline Gaethje and take the belt back. Like, I mean, that was the classic exchange where he, pointed to the center octagon, walked him down. And
Yeah, I taught him that. Yeah, I taught
Do
Max
these
that.
guys got agents? They got agents.
They have agents. They're entertainers, so they have people that are taken care of. Because most fighters are dumb, so they need somebody to handle their personal business. So they have agents, and whoever Conor McGregor's agent is, he probably makes really good money.
Do any of these guys, after they're done, do they become coaches?
They do.
So there's some previous really good fighters that became coaches.
Yeah. In fact, though, there's some previously bad fighters that become good coaches, and that's kind of how a lot of sports are. So a lot of guys that get into coaching, even in all professional sports, aren't great at the particular sport. They just love it, and they got the mind for it.
How often you been solicited to be a coach?
Well, so my fees are usually too high for most people, but I get asked all the time, Mace, how do I do this? Mace, how do I do that? Mace, come get me ready for this championship fight. Mace, come have my baby. All these crazy things get asked of me, but I have only a limited amount of time. So my coaching, I don't think a lot of people can handle my highbrow concepts. So my fighting is so high level that it would take even a high-level fighter a lifetime to even catch up to maybe what's in, like, my baby toe. So it's really difficult. I equate it to being like a mathematician genius. Like, I'm really good at trigonometry, and I can't really explain trigonometry to, like, a little kid. They won't understand trigonometry. So that's being said, that's kind of like, I'm like the trigonometry of martial arts. And everybody else is basically like 1 + 1. So it is difficult for me to lower my level in order to teach concepts, but I do get asked quite often.
When these fighters train, do they train a different way for every different fight, or when they train, do they just train their normal way, or do they change it up? Be like, I gotta train this way for this guy or this way for this guy. How do they approach that when they train? Like, they train? They just have their way of training. They just try to perfect their strengths, or do they go, for this guy, I need to train this way for this guy? Well, how do they approach that?
Well, funny you bring that up. So for guys like you and me who are just born fighters, I don't need to train.
That's how I was looking at it. These guys are very scientific.
Yeah, but for people who really need to practice and get better at fighting, they definitely have training camps designed to battle against whoever's coming up against them. So for instance, you may have a guy who's a really an all-American wrestler who's really good at jiu-jitsu but not so great at punching. So when you have a camp you're preparing for that fight, you're bringing guys that are similar to that. We're going to give you looks to that. You're not going to bring in a tall, skinny guy who does karate if the guy you're going to fight against is a wrestler. So they do specifically train for the fight that's coming up. I think every camp is different. Some people probably do it their own way, but there's definitely they definitely tailor their process to, I think, the person that they're going to fight against. Yeah. So. But yeah, after 329, we get into last night's event, which was UFC Fight Night Oklahoma City, Du Plessis versus Usman. Probably the most useless fight in MMA recent history is Du Plessis versus Usman. It really made no sense for it to even happen. I have no idea why it happened. But I do know that Kamaru Usman's a former champion. Dricus du Plessis is a former champion. But the problem is that Kamaru Usman is a welterweight. He's an unranked middleweight, so they had him fighting the former middleweight champion who's ranked number 2 in a title eliminate. What? I don't understand why they even had those guys fight last night. Because Kamaru Usman looked like he's like, first off, he was like definitely a size smaller. He looked tiny out there. And Dricus du Plessis is a giant middleweight. I bet that guy walks around at 225 pounds, and he fights at 185. So there's a thing called a weight bully, where guys there's weight classes, which I don't believe in personally. I've never.
Yeah, I mean, so that's what I'm saying. So as a smaller guy, I mean, the way we always looked at it was, the bigger they are, the harder they fall, right?
For sure. Well, for me, I mean, I don't know if I ever told you about the time I fought the 4 sumo wrestlers at one time. And I'm maybe like, 165. You got these sumo wrestlers, 300 pounds. They didn't lay a hand on me. So as far as weight classes go, I'm not a huge fan of that. But in the UFC, they got the weight classes going on. So guys that are 185 pounds, a lot of them walk around well over 200 pounds. So they diet, they cut their weight, and then they weigh in, and then they balloon back up. In this particular scenario, Kamaru Usman's a natural welterweight, fighting at a middleweight. So the guy he was fighting, when he looked in there, looked like his big brother. He was far too large for him. And he was also a former champion. Now, they're both former champions, but one's at a former champion at a lighter weight. And it's a big deal. 15 pounds of weight in a fight, unless you're me. But so last night, some of the fights were real good. Now, it was technically UFC Fight Night du Plessis versus Usman. It took place in Oklahoma City. There was a lot of competitive matchups last night. The main event was a 5-rounder, which here's the thing about fights. And I'm going to say this, and I'll say it again, and I'll remind everybody, I don't believe decisions are wins. All right? Fine, you won because of judges, but if you're not finishing people, I don't know. I don't see how that's a win in a fight. That being said, in sport fighting, the main event was a 5-round fight that went to a decision, and it was fairly entertaining for considering the circumstances. The crowd was pretty wild in Oklahoma City last night. They were getting pretty dang crazy. But let's first off, let's talk about, let's go over the main event, because that's what everybody was there for. Du Plessis, the South African, Africa's true champion, Dricus du Plessis, came out, because after his last fight, he fought a guy named Khamzat Chimaev. Probably the most boring fight I've ever seen in my whole life. Khamzat held him down like an older brother would do to a younger brother for about 25 minutes straight, and he won. Not the most entertaining. So du Plessis lost that fight, and should really be embarrassed. He couldn't get out of a crucifix. Yeah, that's day one shit. But let's talk about last night's fight. So Usman came out disciplined, had a good jab, looked good with his movement, considering he's got no knees. But he was trying to, considering his size, I think he was trying to draw in DDP to some counters. But DDP was able to attack him with the body, and he kicked him a lot, actually. Kicked him in the head about 10 times. And Kamaru Usman, next time you're blocking, try to use 2 hands, bro. Try to use 2. Usman, I would say Usman looked better in the exchanges at the beginning, but DDP was far more physical than Kamaru was. Round 2, the momentum shifted drastically as we started to see Kamaru was just not big enough. DDP was clinching a lot. He mixed awkward combinations because he's a real awkward fighter. He moves around. If you saw DDP fight, you'd think that he never took a lesson in fighting before in his life. Like, he doesn't look like he knows what he's doing.
But unorthodox.
It's highly unorthodox. It looks like he hasn't trained.
Yeah.
He fights with his mouth open and.
Well, he'll hit you like Babe Ruth in Game 7 of the World Series.
Well, he definitely hits hard, but the thing about du Plessis and what makes him such a good fighter is he just doesn't stop coming at you.
Break your hand.
He just doesn't come at you. Yeah. He breaks your, he will sacrifice his own head to break your dang hand. So it had weird rhythm, it looked technically crappy, and somehow it's impossible to stop the people, unless you're Sean Strickland. Well, he beat Sean Strickland, didn't he? Hamzat had the plan for Duplessis. Get him off his feet and hold him down. But I don't think Hamzat's a better fighter than Duplessis, to be honest with you.
It's quite the dance at middleweight right now.
Yeah.
It's why is Duplessis fighting?
Why is he fighting Usman
instead of Strickland?
Yeah.
They don't really seem like they like Strickland with all the getting banned from the White House.
No, I don't think so either. He's a difficult one to gauge because I think they do like the fact that he's an outspoken personality, because that's what the UFC likes, is people with personality. But he also is uncontrollable. He's off the rails.
He's a monster.
He's a monster. So round three pops up, and then Usman tries wrestling a little bit in round 3 because he's a wrestler. But the thing about MMA wrestling, like, you can't be smaller than the guy and wrestle him. He was too small, and DDP defended that all well. The scrambles favored DDP, and you could see Usman kind of started to get a little bit outsized for sure at this particular point. Round 4, DDP turned it up. The pressure's so hard on that one. Started body shotting him. They're accumulating. You see Usman was in survival mode by round 4. There was no chance he was going to win the fight. But I think in his mind, he thought he was going to win the fight. Usman should have probably relied on his jab more. He could have jabbed and played. As a smaller fella, he probably should have played a quick guy's game, get in, get out, and try to point that fight. Because there's no way he was going to knock out Dricus du Plessis. There's no way. He was too big. So DDP controlled the round, and then round 5 was just Usman surviving to the end. And where does he go from here? What does Usman do?
How much cardio do these guys do to prepare for these fights?
I don't think. Yeah. So the thing about
it sounds like they tire out. I mean, they have that cardio aspect to that where they like a boxer. I think Michael Spinks, they said he would sprint for 3 minutes, full out sprint for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Then walk for a minute. When they get a break for a minute, and he did that 15 times. So, I mean, did they incorporate a cardio workout into their training? It sounds like they fade out all the time. I don't understand why they're fading out.
No, personally for me, I've never had to do cardio because I've never had a fight go past 20 seconds. So I don't really focus on cardio. I'm more of a technique guy. But these guys who don't have the same skill level as myself, they definitely do cardio.
Oh, they do? Okay.
And I would say that cardio is probably the biggest decider of anything that's not martial arts related in a martial arts fight. So skill level wise, people have their knowledge, but physically speaking, strength is important. It's important. But cardiovascular superiority, in my opinion, is what breaks most people.
That's what I would think.
Because you really see people make mistakes when they get tired. They look for a way out when they get tired. And it's if you go into a fight unprepared physically, you've done yourself a real disservice, and you can see that happens in every Derek Lewis fight. But as a heavyweight, I don't think that guy's expected to go more than a minute in his fights anyway. But surprisingly, he has a lot of fights that go longer than expected. So yeah, cardio is a big deal. Some fighters have used cardio as their weapon. When you can't fight, you use cardio. That's what Nate Diaz does. So if you don't know how to fight, just get in really good triathlon shape and then just run around and try to survive. That's kind of what he does. Merab Dvalishvili, another great cardio guy. But I'd say so many of those guys, the cardio is... One thing about fighting is all these guys do all this physical stuff on the outside to get ready for these fights, that it's kind of a wash. They're all in great shape. You're going to get tired though. And the reason why I feel somebody like Usman got tired last night, because he was carrying around somebody who's way bigger than him. That's what really got him. The size difference was overwhelming. So it was, to be honest with you, as far as a meaningless fight goes, it was a good scrap. But I never felt during that fight that Usman had a chance of winning at all. And then in the co-main event, Christian Leroy Duncan versus Jared Cannonier. Another They use Jared Cannonier as what's called a gatekeeper. And he's about a 40-year-old guy who's still fighting. Looks like he's ripped. He's huge.
I found that pretty entertaining. You know, as an older guy myself,
Yep.
I was kind of it gave me something. You know,
Well,
I don't follow this, but
yeah,
I like to see this guy. To me, it was entertaining.
It was a good fight, but Christian Leroy Duncan, whose nickname is CLD, which is just his initials, is kind of funny. He's like a tornado out there. This guy like spinning around. He was spinning all over the place. But I think that he got more than he bargained for fighting Jared Cannonier. And I wouldn't say it was a fraud check on CLD, but CLD's trying to climb his way up in these rankings at the light heavyweight division, which is one of the weakest divisions in the UFC.
Who sets these rankings, by the way?
They have two. They have AI do one, Meta.
But who are these people that set the
UFC.
The UFC does.
The UFC uses AI to make their.
They have
do they?
They have
so there's not like these people getting in the
they have
back room?
The press has one also.
And the press has one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they have two different versions of it.
At least there's not some people in the back room setting these rankings in if they're using AI.
Well, they kind of are.
If it's there, because they're tied in.
Yeah. And I think that AI.
They're manipulating.
Yeah, of course. They can manipulate rankings.
But they're also making it more confusing than it has to be. It's like it's easy. Like, why are we like diving into deep analytics about this when you can just be like, that guy's better than that guy? It's
the eye test. Huh?
Because
they
make money.
They made it. Yeah.
They're notoriously known for passing title contenders to giving somebody a cash cow, like Connor.
Yeah, or like Usman last night. What is he doing? Why is Usman, he's only fought at middleweight one other time and he lost. So why is he fighting the number 2 guy at middleweight? And he's not.
I think Bo Nickel would have been a better.
He's too small, also though. They're too small.
Too small for Bo.
Oh, hey, actually, so Bo Nickel's 185er.
Yeah, he's middleweight.
Okay, that makes more sense. He's a small.
And he's like he's ranked like 13. You know what I'm saying? And he's a wrestler.
Yeah.
So I feel like you kind of throw Usman to the wolves, but Usman is at the tail end of his career.
He's done.
So he's like,
where does he go next? He fights Bilal Muhammad next.
I think so.
Yeah, those guys are both.
Back at 170.
Yeah, those guys are both at welterweight. That'll be their last fight for both of them. Because Bilal just wrestled Ben Askren last night.
Oh, okay.
So Ben Askren was at Real American Freestyle. If you know anything about Ben Askren, what a hero, man. What a story with that guy. He ended up getting, pneumonia?
Yeah, pneumonia.
And he got so bad, he had double lung transplant. He died like 5 times on the table, they said. But he came back and had a nice wrestling match against Bilal. I'd say Bilal was really generous not to... I wouldn't say it was the most competitive match ever, but the fact that Ben Askren was out there about a year after that happened is crazy. So hats off, shout out to Funky Ben Askren up in Wisconsin. Maybe we'll get him on the show one of these days.
Do you think this jig goes on in this MAA? So back in the day, we used to go down to Baltimore and bet on the ponies.
Sure.
And those stables, those trainers, right? So they'll hold back a horse, even though they know that horse, they got a winner, but they'll hold that horse back to lose like maybe 4 or 5 races,
sure,
and all that, and then they drop in the rankings, and then they become big underdogs, and next thing you know, they let them run, and so if you know who is in the on the tape. And then you can go down there, dump it, this horse. But they know there's one. You think that goes on in this MMA? Like, are these guys sandbagging, to get a lower ranking? But they know they're badasses, and then they're going to get into a fight in high odds. And
I don't think that the fighters. I don't think the fighters in particular do that. But the organization does cater to certain individuals and give them certain matches in order for them to develop a winning record. Now, I do think it's worked really well with Paddy Pimblett. They tried doing it with Sean O'Malley though, and Sean O'Malley was one of the most industry plant fighters in the UFC. Now, don't get this wrong. Sean O'Malley had to go in there and fight for sure. He had to go in and fight, but they did. I wouldn't say control his career, but they customized and picked out fights that he could win in order to keep him winning and develop him as a fighter. So there is a bit of that going on. If we're talking about straight up like tanking fights and throwing fights, that has been something that the UFC has had to deal with for a while. They've had a few different betting scandals, but not on their end so much. They've actually done a really good job of shutting that down. Because unlike other sports, when the betting line shifts so much on fighting, it becomes very suspicious, and they're able to shut that down. And the reason why these betting lines change is because up into a fight, maybe a fighter doesn't disclose it. He's got a broken rib.
Yeah.
And it's going to affect the fight drastically.
Yeah.
But he didn't disclose it, but then somebody from their camp goes out and says, yo, he's got a broken rib. Yeah. And then that becomes insider trading information that will definitely affect the outcome of the fight. So, you know, there's when you start to get into bed with all these betting companies and these prediction companies, there's probably going to be a little bit of tomfoolery and shenanigans behind the scenes.
Some funny business going on.
For sure. Another fight that happened last night. Anyway, so CLD ended up winning that fight. It wasn't... The guy Duncan looks like he's a legitimate top 10 middleweight fighter, but it wasn't a great fight. Chase Hooper gets Mitch Ramirez. Chase Hooper missed weight, so he was overweight. Now, Chase Hooper's a funny guy. He's been fighting the UFC since he's been 18. That guy, we've seen him before our own eyes. He was like a kid. Now he's 26 years old, which is crazy. It seems like he's been fighting forever, which he has. But he went out and got a win last night. They catered, though. They gave him a really winnable fight last night against that guy, Mitch Ramirez. But he did what he had to do. He took him down, took his back, and choked him. And that's what he was known for. He's a submission guy to begin with. And then what happens is guys, they'll knock somebody out and they'll fall in love with their hands. And they'll forget what got them to the dance to begin with. But Chase Hooper went back to his old bag of tricks. He had a sick takedown. And man, when he got on that guy's back last night, he would not, like... Did you watch that at all? He had him in a sick body triangle. And
I'm watching it right now.
Dude, that was sick. And, you know, I've never been in a body triangle, but I put people in it and they say it really hurts. It is a difficult position for people to get out of if they know how to do it. And Chase Hooper was masterful in that. So shout out to Chase Hooper. I don't know what that guy Mitch Ramirez does in the future. He's not a great fighter. Fatima Klein against Tabitha Ricci, which is the Baby Shark versus Fatima Klein. Fatima Klein is no joke. That she was beating the crap out of Tabitha. And the fact is, Tabitha's a good fighter. Baby Shark was trying her best, but we saw Fatima Klein as just at a different level. She had strong clinches. She had great wrestling. She kept on mat returning Baby Shark to the mat, and then she was mean mugging Daniel Cormier from the top. She was fired up.
You think they'll ever get women to fight men in this thing?
No.
No,
not a great idea.
No,
definitely not a great idea. There's just a simple fact is, physically, it just wouldn't be fair. It just wouldn't be fair.
Some of these women athletes, I mean, they're talking about having women, in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, no chance.
Yeah,
it's not gonna work.
I met some badass girls out there.
No,
if it was like 20 pounds,
yeah.
30, like if it was a 145 woman versus like a 125.
Yeah,
Untrained.
That's what I'm. That's what I was thinking. I mean,
but it's still, even Amanda Nunes versus.
There's no chance.
Anybody in the top 10.
Yeah, there's no chance. And that's not a dig on women. There's just a reason why we have women and men competing in separate sports. Fact is like women competing against high-level men. Most men can't compete against high-level men. So we'll just keep those things separate for. And if you want to go out and look, you can find fights against guys against girls on the internet. They're definitely
they do that stuff in Russia.
They've definitely done it in Russia, and
they do 6-on-6 and stuff like that.
Yeah, all kinds of weird stuff like that.
I was going to ask that. So is there any matches where it's multiple people at one time? So there is the. To me, that's more realistic rather than going mano a mano. Like, hey, three people against three people, and it's game on.
Just like a good old Baltimore beatdown.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's how they do it in Baltimore. But listen, the thing about when you get multiple people fighting, once one person loses one teammate gone, the other team's gonna win. Once you have a man up advantage in a fight like that, it's over. Yeah. It's almost because they had those team fights in Russia, and you'll see that happen. One guy goes down, and then it just turned 2-on-1, 3-on-1, and then it's 4-on-1, and the guy's getting curb stomped.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe a tag. They should do a tag team. We got to tag off. That'd be better, right? Or what about a battle royal? MMA battle royal? Could you see that?
Like 3 versus 3.
No, 12 people, 15
12
guys in a ring, last man standing.
That just seems like absolute chaos.
Sounds nice.
You even referee that. But
No ref, dude. No ref.
Vigilante fighting.
No ref. One of the great performances. I'm going to finish up on this event from last night, though. Tommy McMillan versus Alberto Montez. Tommy McMillan is Tommy Boars McMillan. He's honestly better fighter than I thought. I thought he was kind of a clown, but he definitely can fight. He's definitely what the UFC likes. He went to full 3 rounds last night, or he ended up knocking him out.
in third, yeah. That's,
But it took him a while, and it was kind of cool to see him really have to kind of fight. And he did better than I thought. He's pretty good on the mic too. He's pretty good on the mic, pretty funny, and he's got a certain demographic that's really gonna like him. And the UFC wants him to succeed. They like guys like him. They like him. Best preliminary performance last night was R.J. Harris. He had an explosive first round finish. He never gave his opponent Hines any chance to settle in there. And Dione Barbosa, she had a beautiful rear naked choke. And that was the second fight of the night. Probably one of the cleanest submissions on the card. Let's see, anything funny happened last night? Oh yeah, people, they're definitely were leaning into the idea that Dricus Du Plessis looks like a guy who's never trained before. They're talking about his crazy striking, they always say the worst you look as a fighter is when you're fighting. Because you get somebody on pads, they always look great. You get them on in their, just doing shadow boxing, they look great. When you put people into a fight, they start getting tired and stuff. They look terrible. And a lot of times with Du Plessis, you hear the announcer say, "Surely that's not going to work," and guess what? It works. So, do I think Dricus Du Plessis could be a champion of the middleweight division again? Yes, I do. I think he's the antidote for Strickland. He's the guy who can do what Strickland does back to Strickland. And have they fought twice?
yes.
And he beat him 2 times.
Yeah.
That's not good for Strickland. I don't think Strickland beats him.
No.
Yeah, Strickland's a great matchup for Hamzat, because once Hamzat... I think the thing about Hamzat now, and what people realize about Hamzat, is once you punch him and he becomes the nail, he don't like it. He likes being the hammer, and you can't always do that in MMA. You get this high-level guys like this. So Usman's toughness was almost a detriment to him, but he really showed a lot of heart last night. The crowd was great last night in Oklahoma City. A lot of USA chants. That USA chant is the best. USA! USA! You can't do that when it comes to France. Doesn't work, right? England. No, doesn't work. So I know it's basic and kind of dumb, but the USA chant, love it. Basically, the knockout night was a Tommy McMillan. The crowd went nuts for that, and overall, it was a good event. Biggest winner, Dricus Du Plessis, Christian Leroy Duncan, and Tommy McMillan. Biggest loser, Kamaru Usman. Not because he fought poorly, but because, people respect him, but he's 39 years old. There's no more title runs for Kamaru. He's a money fighter now. But like I said, I think the next fight that makes sense for him is Bilal Muhammad. They're both at the end of their career, both former champions. And it is going to be a boring fight. 2 boring guys. But I think in that one, Usman... I think Bilal beats Usman. I think he outworks him. So that covers our MMA portion of the show here. But when's the next MMA? What's the next UFC?
I was just going to say, do you want to do predictions
What's
for the next card?
What's the next card?
So the next card is going to be UFC Fight Night Ankalaev versus Guskov. This is Magomed coming back from his loss to Pereira.
He got beat up by Pereira that last time.
Yeah, he thought he was.
He thought he was the bee's knees after that one, didn't he?
Yeah, after that win, but yeah, Pereira came back focused. That's what I like about Alex is that he comes back after a loss.
You think he fights? You think Cyril Gane? You think Alex Pereira could beat Cyril Gane?
I don't know.
I don't think people can. I think Surreal Gone, aside from the fact that he's a bit shady and gets away with a lot of fouls, he's an incredibly good fighter at that size. There's not a lot of guys like him.
I think, it's just because he's more of a natural heavyweight, whereas
he's a large dude, and he's also physically athletic. Like, he's a lot like me, that physique, you know?
Adonis.
Yeah, basically. And so, you know, you see a lot of guys at heavyweight. There's a lot of dad bods at heavyweight.
Yes.
Which, to be honest with you, dad bods in fighting is a thing. You know?
Roy Nelson.
Yeah, but even, you know, a lot of guys that are in fighting, Roy Nelson, an extreme case of that. But a lot of guys in fighting, period, just aren't shredded. You know, there's a lot of guys that have that.
You lose your strength when you know what I mean, to be.
You know, like, for me, I've got beach muscles, but I've also got functional muscles as well. I'm the total package. But a lot of guys just have the beach muscles, and you're carrying around those beach muscles, and they're not really functional. They look great in pictures, but then you get guys that have that kind of like that insulated dad bod, and those guys are real problems.
The best fighter I've ever seen in the best physique, and he was a badass, Lennox Lewis.
After me.
Yeah, I mean,
aside from
me. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah,
aside from me.
I mean, what was he? 6'7"? 6'7". I mean, and he was,
massive,
290, but not a 5% body fat.
Yeah.
And,
Used his range really well.
The problem with him, though, is his voice didn't match up with his body. I didn't like that. My name is Lennox Lewis. Very nice voice. Right? I was like, wait, your voice doesn't sound like it should. What the fuck? It kind of happens with
real proper, like.
It was crazy. I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Okay, so what are some of the other fights on that night? We got.
Okay, so it's a lot of heavyweight and light heavyweights.
Big fellas, the big boys.
But yeah, we got Steve Erceg versus Ramazan Timarov.
Okay, so Steve Erceg is the guy who looks like he should be working over at a copy shop.
He looks like the guy that sold me my cell phone.
Yeah, the cell phone guy. So, they rushed Steve Erceg a little bit too much in the beginning, but he's a good fighter.
Yeah.
He's a good fighter.
He's minus 115, and Timarov is minus 105. So.
Is Timarov from the Stan country?
Uzbekistan.
I bet I'm Timarov.
Then we got Islam Dulatov versus Wellington Turman.
Is this fight from the Middle East? Is this taking place in
Abu Dhabi?
Abu Dhabi?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, UAE.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of these fighters I'm not going to know about, to be honest with you.
There's a top 10 heavyweight fight. Rizvan Kuniev from Russia is fighting Tyrell Fortune, number 8.
See, this is the problem with heavyweights. They're bad.
Yeah.
Like, I think
it's
Tai
probably
Tu.
the worst heavyweight division.
It's the worst
ever. Like, when it was Brock, JDS,
Frank Mir,
Cormier, Bigfoot Silva, like there was a hit like
Shane Carwin,
Stephen Struve, Shane Carwin,
Travis Brown,
Alistair Overeem.
Yeah.
It was just murderers, bro. Like,
that was crazy now to think about that.
Yeah.
And now it's garbage.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Not a lot of shelf life with, at that weight.
I think big guys are afraid of getting knocked down in front of the world.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, but if you
I've took a few losses. If you're gonna be a fighter, you can't have that in the back of your head.
Yeah. I mean, I've never lost, but
Mike Davis from the U.S. Santiago
Ponzinibbio, the Brazilian.
Yeah, Argentinian.
Argentinian, yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna be fighting Dustin Jacoby. He's fighting Uran Satibaldea.
Okay.
Kyrgyzstan. So that's a light heavyweight. And then Walter versus Thomas Peterson.
Oh, Walter Walker's interesting. You seen that guy? He's a leg locker.
Yeah.
He's a heavyweight leg locker.
Yeah.
And that's
scary too.
This is the funniest part about heavyweight though. He's like that guy. He cracked the code because you don't know heavyweights practice jiu-jitsu. Yeah, so that's Johnny Walker's brother, and he's gonna leg lock his way all the way to the heavyweight championship of the world because nobody knows how to defend leg locks apparently at heavyweight. So the upcoming events, we got a bunch of stuff coming up. We got the event happening. What next? 2 weeks from now? 1 week? Next week?
Next week is Ankalaev versus Guskov.
I don't know who Guskov is, so I think Ankalaev wins.
Yeah, it's a stand versus a stand. It's Uzbekistan versus.
They both got the beard.
No, he looks kind of like Anthony Smith, honestly.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Lionheart?
Yeah.
That guy's the worst fighter in UFC history is Lionheart Smith. I'll say it to your face too, Lionheart.
August 1st is Medic versus Rodriguez in Serbia.
Okay.
August 8th is Gamrod versus Salkil.
Oh, that Salkil guy. That's that Australian fella, right?
Okay.
Yeah. He got the Australian mullet, and he head kicks people into the shadow realm.
Okay.
Good fighter. All right, and then the big one's coming.
The
Islam.
big one after that is Islam versus Machado Gary. So.
And we had talked about the Paris card, but they don't know who's fighting that yet, correct?
No, Paris card is September 5th. It's got Michael Bidham Page on it versus a Uzbekistan guy.
That's a co-main event.
It doesn't say. It's just, there's only 3 fights
scheduled
on
so
that
far.
card. Ryan Spann versus Mario Pinto.
Ryan Superman Spann with one of the worst tattoos in UFC history. The only person, there's some bad tattoos in the UFC. My favorite one is Jamal Hill with the 2 thumbs ups. What is that?
I think it's a gang.
Is it?
It's like a Bloods or Crips.
Yeah.
But
Well, whoever put that, I think the Blood should disown that one. That's one of the worst tattoos I've ever seen in my whole life, man. That's so bad. It looks really bad.
On the topic of future
Events?
future events, so you got your nunchucks there. You ever think you're going to have any integrate any weapons into these fights?
So, as far as weaponry goes, I've participated in some underground weapons fights. Of course, undefeated. My preferred weapon is the nunchuck. Occasional ninja stars. But, yeah, I think we'd have to degrade, society would have to grade a little bit further in order for us to get weapons in the actual octagon. What weapons would they allow? Nunchucks, maybe a short sword, bow staff, Morningstar mace.
I would think if you're going to do it has to be within the same family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're going to go knife, you know what I mean? It's like you can't have one superior weapon over the other, or I don't know. I mean,
they got bought out by WWE, so they're owned by
Could happen.
TKO now. So
Could happen.
I say like bar fight MMA.
That'd be great.
With set up the octagon like a bar.
Yeah.
And have chairs and tables and bars.
Great idea. Great idea. They should also, during every UFC event, randomly call 2 people out of the crowd and have them fight.
Yeah.
Just seat 46A, come on into the octagon.
Have they ever had any celebrity matches in MMA?
Well,
I mean, I know they do the boxing. You know what I mean? You get some of these celebrities, but have they had?
Trudeau boxed, didn't he?
Did he?
Trudeau didn't the Canadian?
Did he really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, there was supposed to be a match between Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg.
What in the MMA? I thought that was boxing. No, but they were
going to do MMA.
Oh, were they?
Elon Musk could be in trouble. I got to be honest with you. Zuckerberg is a legitimate.
I think everyone will be in trouble if we watch that.
No, Zuckerberg's a legitimate martial artist, though. I got to be honest with you. I bet he's decent. I've seen him compete actually in regular competition. Now he has lost, so he does have flaws in his game. But hats off. I mean, Elon Musk would get crushed.
Musk got that Asperger thing, man, and those people can snap.
He's also just out of shape and he couldn't box his way out of a wet paper bag.
He's built
he's just terrible. Elon Musk.
So in 2012, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau fought in a sanctioned boxing match with Canadian Senator Patrick Brazeau, and Trudeau won.
Can we get a little? If we get any footage on that, that'd be great. I'd love to see something like that. Let's see here. So there are a lot of great events come up, and we're gonna start covering all these. We're not going away. The Mace Hammertime MMA Power Hour show is back in action, but we've added a few other segments to this, and I want to go over a couple things before we wrap the show up. We're adding a segment called Menace of the West, and we're doing the Badass of the Week award. Now, every week we're gonna honor someone who's embodies grit, toughness, courage, and stood on their principle. Doesn't matter. They're a fighter, soldier, explorer. It's someone who refuses to back down. And this week, the official badass of the week is Major General Smedley Darlington Butler. One of his quotes. Let's just get into. I don't have one of his quotes actually, but let's talk about some of the reasons why he's awesome. Number 7 reason why he's rad. He joined the Marines at 16 years old. He lied about his age during the Spanish-American War. And he wanted to fight before it was. He wanted to fight before the war was over. So he got a lot of experience in the French and Indian War. It's a little too far back. Spanish-American War. He comes from Minzo, so he didn't have to go fight, but he decided he wanted to go fight for the country. He fought all over the world. He fought in China, the Boxer Rebellion, Honduras, Nicaragua, Mexico, Haiti, Cuba, and France during World War II, or World War I, sorry. I think most of the fighting he did in Honduras and Nicaragua was for bananas. Not joking. Not joking, the Banana Wars. He's one of only 19 people ever to be awarded the Medal of Honor. More impressive is that he won it 2 separate times for extraordinary heroism. Getting one Medal of Honor is extraordinary, but he got 2. He led from the front, so he wasn't the kind of guy who hung out in the back like Napoleon. He was up front, personally leading assaults and walked through enemy fire. Some leaders point, but Butler charged ahead. Number 3, he became one of the most decorated Marines in history. 2 Medals of Honor, 2 Marine Corps Brevet Medals, and a Distinguished Service Medal. Number 2, this is one of the biggest things he did. He exposed the business plot. In 1934, Butler testified before Congress that wealthy businessmen had approached him about leading a coup against President Franklin D. Roosevelt. One of the people in the crew was actually George Bush's grandpa. So George Bush II's grandpa was one of these people who started this. Now, they approached Smedley because he was a decorated war hero. They thought he could get him to join in on this coup attempt. Instead of going along with it, he said, stuff it, and he stayed quiet. He didn't stay quiet, he reported it. Now, whether every detail has been covered is debated, but if you want to learn more about the business plot, I encourage you to learn more about this. It's one of the biggest coup attempts in American history. And he also then became incredibly anti-war after he was done. And in fact, he wrote one of the most influential pamphlets called War is a Racket. It was basically in the book he explains that he fought every war for corporate interests and not for freedom. And this book was written back in the 1930s. Final verdict on Smedley. He wasn't a badass because he won medals. He was a badass because he consistently put himself where the danger was. He earned the respect of the Marines he led, and he later had the conviction and to challenge the power and to keep our country from having one of the biggest overthrows of government that we've ever seen. So Smedley Butler, that's this week's Hammer Time Badass of the Week. And if you got somebody, any of you guys, somebody you think of that deserves this award, fighter, soldier, explorer, firefighter, or just an all-around legend, drop it in the comments and we'll maybe feature it next week. Finally, we got Hammer Time's movie recommendation, action movie recommendation of the week. And the action movie recommendation of the week film goes out to 1988's Jean-Claude Van Damme masterpiece, Bloodsport. Released in 1988, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, directed by Newt Arnold. This movie covers the not true story of compulsive liar Frank Dukes and how he went over and won the Kumite, a no-holds-barred fight, which I participated in multiple. I'm a 7-time Kumite winner. This movie put Jean-Claude Van Damme on the map, and it basically, if you take anything away from this movie really shows you that traditional martial arts are horseshit, and that a guy who drinks beer can show up and beat the shit out of everybody in this, just using bar fighting techniques. This movie should actually be called Jackson. Have you seen Bloodsport?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, it's based. They based Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat.
So you're familiar with the character Jackson, who's played by the late, what's his name, Gibb? He was in Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah, the guy who played Ogre. Right?
Yeah, Ogre from Revenge of the Nerds. Well, he plays Jackson. Now, if you watch Donald Gibb's character in Bloodsport, all he does is he goes in there and he grabs him by the hair and smashes him on the face. The only reason he lost is because he was showboating. You remember the time he's fighting Chung-Li? Crack him in the head. What does Jackson start doing? He wants the crowd's attention. Chung-Li comes over and then ends up beating him. That would have created an incredibly complicated part of the movie because Jackson and Frank Dukes would have met in the final then. So they had to get rid of Jackson. The funny thing about the whole movie though is that Jackson and Dukes met each other the night before, and then by 2 days later they're best friends who've ever existed. But anyway, so if you really want to see a great film, this movie takes the incredible life story of Frank Dukes, an American Army captain who goes AWOL, and he competes in the Kumite. Along the way, he befriends fighter Jackson. He gets chased by military investigators, and he falls for reporter Janice Kent. Overall, this movie really kind of set Jean-Claude Van Damme's career in motion, and probably all around the best martial arts movie that's ever existed. That being said, we'll be doing more movie recommendations every single week. Some of the most iconic scenes in the movie, they did the death touch. So some great quotes in there. OK USA. I'm giving this movie. This is a 5-star. This is a 5-star. 5-star movie. Not quite a perfect 10, but I'm giving it high ranks, and I highly recommend watching Bloodsport 1988. Anyway, any final words for you?
I just want to say thank you for having me. I'm infatuated with your sport. I'd like to see some changes for me to actually spend some time with that, but I'd like to come on again some other time, give my perspective.
Well, Sammy, we've got a bunch of events coming up. Any questions you have, feel free to ask next time we're on the show. But we're going to keep doing this. Every event that comes up, we'll try to do maybe some live events, maybe get some guests on the show. We're going to try to have some guests on the show. They're going to interview me. We'll get some high-level guests on at some point. But we're back. Mace Hammer Time MMA Power Hour is back in action. I want to give a shout out to Sandy for being here. Give a shout out to Guillermo behind the scenes over there, producing everything. This is Mace Hammer Time, 500 Hammer Time. Out. Ow!